Yeah, okay. There's no, I mean, you can stop any one of these things and talk for an hour, but it's just going to, when you have it in the fixed houses, in the having houses and using it, you have your mind in a house to think about what you have and how do you use what you have. It's more utilitarian and more fixed. I got to get a plan. I'm going to use it this way. I'm going to do things this way. So these are kind of a little stubborn thinking or fixed thinking. So the intuitive, having personal resources, having money, I'm thinking about how to have money. So even though your thinking is trying to be a bit more fixed, wherever Mercury is, there's going to be a diversity of opinions and thoughts trying to figure things out there. So you can't say you'll be stable around resources. You're just always thinking about how to use what you have and trying different ways and learning different ways. But you'll be trying to use it. You might have a certain attitude of how you think you have to do things. And then you got this result, let's do this, let's do that. You'll be trying to apply that. It'll be harder to change your ideas about using how to spend money or what to do with Mercury in your second house. So as soon as I say that, some people could have the Mercury in the second house and it's changing and adaptable, and they're really flaky and too dissipated, but it can happen. But so Mercury creates a puzzle, but your attention, your alertness is going into what you have and how do you use what you got. So your intelligence will come out of that association intuitively, not how other people use. What do I got to do? What do I have? And in the 10th house, in the 11th house, it's about friends and enemies, your peers, the friends who like you, friends who and enemies who hate you, and all the shades in between. You're thinking about your social status, position, who you know, who they know, what they expect, and how you're going to influence them. So if someone has their Mercury in the 3rd house and they lose a job, they tell all their friends, and someone's going to find someone who's a job that's going to tell them about what can be there. If someone's in the 2nd house and the Mercury, they lose the job, they're not going to be talking to their friends about it. They're going to think, what do I got to do? Who do I got to talk to? What I got to get? Oh, gee, it's going to come out more. It's more of a personal puzzle, how to get myself together better to find another job. Whew. With Mercury in the 8th house, which is the house of trust and business, of how people put energy, they're thinking, well, if we got rich parents, we can wait and be aligned properly so we'll get the inheritance. Or if we put our energy together, we can invest here. It's really about teamwork. Yeah, this 7th, 8th, 9th is really, the whole above the horizon is about teamwork, but it's social in the thinking. It's more like your partnership and who you're doing business with. It's more specific in the 9th, 8th, and 7th house. The 8th house is about, you got more money than me. How much of my energy is going, how much of our energy is going to my friends? How much is going to your friends? Which is justified? How do you think about this? Is more money going to your friends, more money going to my friends? We spend more time with your friends or my friends? Between a husband and wife, that's a big deal. Usually the husband's more important, and the money goes, and his friends are more important to align to, but it's not true. It's supposed to be both. It's supposed to work equally. So this trust and figuring out these things, that's where the mind gets worked with. It's very psychologically profound in that area. When Mercury's down in the 5th house, it's not about social or about trust, it's about performance. I'm thinking about how do I react? So I take this impression, how do I think to play with it to make it better, to take in good impressions, bad impressions, and still make them better and have fun with it. So it's how do you get feedback? You're thinking about having feelings to get feedback. How do I get the right feeling to be positive, to give good feedback? Or why am I stuck with these negative feedbacks or being not performing? I don't want to perform. Nobody will like what I'm doing. I'll never be good enough. Like this is the negative side. So it's going to go through the positive, negative thinking of all these areas. But here there's a tendency to get fixed in a certain attitude, and it takes effort to make a mental adjustment. And it takes intensity to reach somebody to make these adjustments in these areas. Okay, so when we get to the cadent, these are the adaptable, transforming, understanding. These are the houses where you're always trying to adjust or understand, or you're getting a different perspective. So they're kind of open-ended. And Mercury, well, it works. It's more comfortable in this diversity where there's multiple choices. But the Mercury in the cadent house of understanding, it's alert to trying to learn and study things and understand where brothers, sisters, where things are going to have common sense. It's a house of expressing yourself, making associations with yourself, expressing things. Oh, that's funny. Oh, that's not. It's the common sense area. So Mercury works very well in this 3rd house and in expressing oneself. In the 6th house, it works well because it's taking in impressions, always trying to find a way of reacting, and I can react better. I can use this information. I can adjust this. This will help me to get this. It's always trying to improve and fix things. So let's just say it's called the house of duty, but I would call it the house. It's a duty to be healthy and improve your situation, to take an input and make it better. So this is taking things personally, make it work for you. Okay. And there's always many ways. So your searches can be searching about health, thinking about health, thinking about career, thinking about jobs changing. What do I have to do? What do I have to add? What do I change? But these, when it gets negative, it could be, again, it could be mental, just not thinking right and being detached from it. If you're not eating right, you're not going to think right. So it puts the focus on health and on improvement and on the type of skills you're doing and how to improve them. When you get to above the horizon, Mercury tends to get dissipated in everyone else. It's not the strongest when you're thinking. Minding other people's business is different than when you're minding your own. In the 12th house, not everybody's thinking the same way as you, and not everybody's going to. So there's a sort of tendency to feel your ideas are locked up, or to work behind the scenes, or to think behind the scenes. And that can be very deep and profound, or very socially conscious. But most people would not know what you're thinking with your Mercury down in that area. And you're having to sift through what's good and bad and what's worth following and what's not. On the consciousness on the Mercury, there's a lot of growth that can happen from it, but it's a challenge to know what's right and not be able to say something, or to say something and then not everybody agrees with what being right. So in the 9th house, it's the philosophy. So you think you understand the philosophy, understand what everyone's doing, in a way Donald Trump does. He thinks he understands where everyone is, but it's not really fathoming the morality and the principles and the ethics of everyone around you. It's concerned with it, it's thinking about it, it's seeing it socially and thinking about the interactions of who's doing what. Well, if everybody does it, why can't I do it? If everybody's ripping off the government, why wouldn't I? That's a good 9th house scenario. Justifying your actions, your interreactions. But there's a tendency to get spaced out into other people's other things. It's hard to regroup and get your thinking clearly. It's easy to regroup your thinking inside yourself. It's much harder outside, and there's a tendency to exaggerate or spend out and have too many things going on and get misunderstood. So Mercury is not so strongly, but its presence there is definitely noticeable. So when you're trying to work the Mercury, you're always going back into working the houses, the quadrants, the different things, and you're stretching your ability to know the house. As you know the houses, you can see, oh, so I'm thinking in this area. Okay, I can work with that. And then you can see the good and the bad of it. So we get that area is complete. These are all color-coded, and they're color-coded for the rising and the setting, all these graphs, because when you just say Aries is the 1st house, it doesn't fit properly, and or Gemini is the 3rd house, whereas Gemini is the brightest time of the year, but the 3rd house is the darkest time of the day. So it's different energies. So the color, as you work through it, it's dark at midnight, it becomes reddish or brighter at sunrise, it comes up to the brightest orangey at noon, and then it goes down to the green at sunset, then it goes down to the dark at midnight. So you have the colors going around in the proper way. Anyways, it's just, this is how this is set up. So you have the worlds of self. There's 3 areas where you're concerned about yourself, your own idea of who you are, your sense of self. This is what I look like, this is who I am, this is my identity. So if Mercury's in your 1st house, you're going to be thinking about your identity, or you're going to identify to whatever thoughts you have. Just me, this is how I think. This is what I know. You know, I can do this for you. So the I becomes very prominent. If it's in the 5th house, you're thinking about your performance. Aren't I good? Wasn't I nice? Have I got to figure out, do you like what I did? It's your mind is trying to have feelings, develop feelings about itself. So it wants to feel confident, and to feel confident, it needs the applause. Hi, mom. Hey, mom, look at me. Hi, honey, look at me. Like, wasn't I good? Wasn't I good? Like, it's that childishness of performance and play. But the Mercury gets involved in it. It's very creative, but it's creative because it wants to get a response and has to sift through what was the negative, what was the positive. How do I make this better? How do I get good enough myself? So usually the performance to get good enough requires some adjustment, 6th house, to improve. And then your performance improves, then you feel better secure. If you're putting out bad, this is going to be negative. If you're putting out good, sometimes you get better things back. So that's 5th house. The fire, that's my identity. My identity is me, my performance, and my understanding. 9th house, my morality. This is my take on things. My Mercury is in my morality, my sense of self, how I'm thinking. You don't understand this, but I understand it's like this. So these are the three areas that our identity is composed of: my image, my identity, my performance, and my understanding. I understand what I'm doing. Do you really understand what you're doing? You know, like this Mercury is going to be active there. So, okay, when you come to like this is houses of identity, this would be performance. Morality, sometimes you read about it, it's the third house, the ninth house of long distance travel. I'm thinking about other countries or other where you run across other philosophies, you adjust your morality. In the performance, it's your playfulness, it's the games you play, and it's thinking about how you play your games. Your performance is just thinking about who you are. These are the three ways, the three houses that really accentuate the things we're proud of and who we are in ourselves.